Good morning to all of my beautiful people on YouTube. Another school morning, so I'm on my way to class now. But today's video is gonna be like my introductory tips to photography. So that should be pretty cool, but I have to do that after this class. So let's get to that. Alright, so I finally made it to campus. I have 20 minutes to spare, so that's pretty nice. I'm gonna go get some food real quick. But today is January 14th. January 14th, and today marks the day that I make a lifestyle change. Today's gonna be the first day I start going back to the gym. So I'm excited for it because I haven't actually been to the gym in about a year or two. It's gonna be the first time I go back to the gym in a couple years, and I'm excited for it. So January 14th, well, you're gonna see this January 15th, but January 14th is the day I started going ham. Anyways, as I was saying, I'm gonna go get some breakfast because I have not eaten anything, and I'll talk to you guys when I get to the photography stuff and all that kind of cool stuff. So also, I brought this guy with me. So this is the Genji Shuriken, and I brought it as like a prop. But yeah, I'll be using that later, but I'll talk to you guys when... Okay, goodbye Genji Shuriken. I'll talk to you guys later. I'll get to that whenever I get over there. So see you guys in a bit. Not sure how well this is gonna keep focus, but what I'm gonna be talking about today is how to shoot photos. I'm gonna go over aperture, shutter speed, ISO, and the way to shoot a photo, and like the difference that each exposure setting does for you. So like how a different aperture makes a photo look, or a different shutter speed, or a different ISO. So I'm gonna be showing you guys what those do. But it's pretty noisy right now, so then I'm gonna come back later after class. I have about 20 minutes to show you the difference in aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, show you what they all do. And I'm gonna be shooting right here. I'm gonna be setting up stuff on this little bench here, and I'm gonna be shooting and showing you the differences within the exposure settings. So let's go ahead and do that. Typically when someone says they have a fast aperture, or just have like an aperture that's wide open, see how wide open this aperture is? You can see right through it. It's a big piece of glass. Now this does two things. One, it gives you a nice depth of field, meaning it's going to be super blurry in the background, so you can completely separate your subject from your background. Two, it makes your lens better in the light, so it just gives it a really nice effect, having that nice depth of field. And in these photos that you saw here that I just took, the first photo was taken at f1.2, so you can see that the background's super blurred out and melted. In the second photo, I jumped up to 2.8, so a little bit less depth of field, but it still looks pretty nice. Some nice separation from the background to the foreground. And then in the third photo, I shot at 5.6, so the aperture started closing up a bit more, so letting in less light. So let me pause the bird box real quick because I'm finally watching it now. But I forgot to mention that your aperture directly affects the depth of field. Like the smaller number, like a 1.2, 1.4, it gives you more background blur. Also, more light enters the lens, so your sensor gets more light. So it's brighter, has more background blur, and whenever you close the aperture, like a 5.6 as I said, you get a little bit less depth of field. Take a look at the first two photos and then compare them to the third one. You'll see that the third one has less background blur, and it even has a little bit less light in it. So I forgot to mention that in this video because I was kind of hurried, but yeah, that's it. So I'm gonna start watching the bird box again. But now we're gonna go into shutter speed, but we have to go to a different location. Now I will also add that the smaller your f-stop is, the more difficult it is to focus on that area. So when you're shooting f1.2, your plane of focus is so thin, so if you barely move, you're out of focus. Now right now I'm shooting at f6.3, where my camera has a bit easier time focusing on me because it's pretty linear. But I have to go to my math class, so we're gonna continue with the shutter speed whenever I get out. So let's go over there. Honestly, not exactly sure when the last time I recorded was. I know I was still on school campus, I know that much. I think it was, I had just finished talking about Aperture, actually. Okay, so we have to move on to shutter speed. So shutter speed is pretty much what your camera uses to capture a photo. So typically I like to use 1/80th of a second and take that photo, and if the subject's staying still, nice, it looks fine. But now let's say we keep it at 1/80th of a second and have that person moving. As soon as they move and you snap that photo, you're gonna see some slight motion blur. So to counter that, you would turn your shutter speed up. Now shutter speed is still an exposure setting, so it'll make your image darker the higher you go within the shutter speed. So like for example, this on the screen right now. Earlier, I was playing with the Genji Shuriken. It's a fidget spinner that will just spin. And what I was doing is I was taking pictures of it and seeing this first image, how it is just blurred. Like there's nothing to it, like it's just blurred out. Like you can't even really tell it's a Shuriken. Now, in this second photo, I upped it a good amount and it's still fairly blurred. Now this third one is pretty high up there. Now you can start to see that it is a Shuriken. Now that looks pretty decent, but still slightly blurred. Let's turn it up to 1/8000th of a second. Boom. It just completely stopped. So I was still spinning the Shuriken, but the camera was shooting so fast it was able to stop. So that's what your shutter speed does. Now you can go on the complete flip side, and I didn't do any long exposures tonight, but I'll show you some on the screen right now. As I was saying, you can go on the flip side and make it a very slow shutter speed. Now what that does, it adds more light to your image. There's more blur if anything's moving. So I'm pretty sure you guys have seen those nice streaks of red lights on a road. That is from a long exposure photo that was shot with a slow shutter speed. So that's how you would achieve that kind of effect. So you can go either way. Just know that the higher you go on the shutter speed, the darker it gets. The lower you go, the lighter it gets. So like right now in video, so this is just a quick heads up for the next video. In video right now, I'm at 1/50th of a second. Let's say I wanted to change that. I just turned it up to 1/1600th of a shutter. You can start seeing the light behind me, how you start seeing the lines, because light also moves at a frequency. So let's go ahead and turn it back. So that is what shutter speed does for you. You can stop something in motion, get some blur, add some light. So in a photography sense, if you're shooting with a really wide aperture lens, like a 1.4 let's say, the way to combat that it's too bright is just crank up your shutter speed. In that part, it doesn't matter. So that covers shutter speed. Now let's go to ISO. Okay, so as I was saying, right now we're gonna be talking about ISO. So what ISO is how sensitive your camera's sensor is to light. So right now, I would say this area is pretty well lit. I have my light coming out from my key light, and I even have my room's light on right now. So let's go ahead and turn that off. Right here, I still look fine. This probably even looks better than the other light. But now let's say I turn these lights on. Add a little bit more color in it. Now I'm gonna turn this key light off. So I could sit here and record this video and it would still be fine. My ISO right now is currently 250. I can turn this up though. So let's go ahead and turn it up to, let's turn it up to 800. All right, so now I turned it up to 800. See these different colors in my room? They're a lot more apparent now. Now you can see when it's orange, red, green, blue, white. You can see all these colors a lot better because my camera's sensitivity is now heightened, so it can see these colors a bit better. So that's pretty cool. That's great to have. But there is one issue. So it depends on your camera how good it performs in the lower lit environment. Right now we are at 800. This is still pretty good. I can go up to about 1250. Let's do that right now. So this is the max. I would take this camera. 1250 and ISO is the max I'll take it because anything after this gets noisy. So if I were to, let's say for example, let me turn it up to, take it up to 2500. So you can see these lights a lot better now. I'm a lot better exposed, but it's noisy. Like you can see the noise. Look at the corners, the bottom, top. Look at the blacks. They're just a bit noisy. They're almost unusable. Some cameras are way better at denoising footage. So like, let's say for example, the A7R3 or A7 III or A7S2, those things are absolute monsters when it comes to low light shooting. They have a clean ISO up to 12,800. Right now I'm at 1600. This is starting to look pretty meh. Let's go ahead and turn this up to 12.8. So now it's just overexposed. It's just too sensitive, capturing way too much light, and it's too noisy. So what I'm gonna do right now to combat this is I'm gonna close my aperture. So right now my aperture is 5.6, shutter speed is still 50, and my ISO is 12,800. I would never in a billion years use 12,800 on this camera. So that's what ISO is. ISO is how sensitive your camera is to light, how well it picks up different color spectrums, and how noisy your footage is. So every camera is different. Some cameras have a very clean ISO up to like 25,600. Other cameras like this one only go up to 1250 and are clean. Alright, so now I'm back on my key light. Everything's back to normal. I'm back at 1.8 and I'm back at 400, right? Yeah, I'm at 400. So as I was saying, every camera is different. Some cameras can go up to 25,600 and be nice and clean and crispy. Other cameras like this one, hell no, can't. Went halfway, looks disgusting. I'm not really sure what else I'm missing as far as introduction to photography goes, but there are so many different things that you need to know to get into photography, but I was just covering the basics. So now I hope you know the 3 exposure modes, different lenses, and a bit about what body to get. But I hope this video kind of helped you determine how to take a photo. But I think they covered pretty much everything. If you think there's something I missed, put it in a comment down below. If you have any suggestions for future videos, put it in a comment down below as well. If you found this helpful or you like this or whatever it may be, go ahead and like and subscribe. Thank you guys for having me, but I'll see you guys next time. You guys have a great night. Peace. Wait. Don't cut anything yet. Don't leave your seat yet. We have to talk about lighting. So when it comes down to photography, I try to use as much natural light as possible. If I'm outside, perfect. I'm using the light from the sun. So if you can use natural light, that's always gonna be the best, especially like if you're next to a window like this, where the light just kind of bleeds through. It's nice, soft, and diffused, and it just looks great. Now, when it comes to photography, I'll be 1,000,000,000% honest. I don't use flashes. I don't care for flash. I think they're weird. You have to angle them, you have to move them, you have to do all sorts of stuff. I try to stay away from flashes, but even I kind of have to buy a flash. I'm gonna be getting one for this GH5. Even though I don't really want to, but I know I'm gonna have to get one. But if you can use natural light is gonna be the best for your subject. But now I covered everything, so you guys have a great night. Peace.